Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kim Limato, and I'm a supervisor at the Regional Center of the East Bay. I want to say thank you for coming to this presentation. I usually do it every year live and in person, but this year it's different. So today we're going to talk a little bit about regional center services and getting ready to prepare for your loved one's life after school. Um, I want to say thank you also to the Tri-Valley SELPA for having this wonderful transition fair this year again. And I think they've done a great job with this virtual kind of presentation world that we're doing. So I hope you enjoy it. And I put my email at the bottom of this. It's klamato@rceb.org if you have any questions, especially about case management services or services that the regional center can provide to you. Regional Center is a program that is provided through the state of California. And so we're going to talk a little bit about our services, but we're also going to talk a little bit about all of these different areas that are presented on this agenda. We're not going to go into great detail about them, but we will go over them and hopefully you'll gain some insight on some of the things that you'll need to kind of take a look at the future. Regional Center of the East Bay is a nonprofit, state-funded organization. There's 21 regional centers throughout the state of California. And the regional centers were started by parents who really wanted to take a look at what they could do to keep their loved ones with a developmental disability living at home or in the community that they were raised. And so, probably about 60 years ago, the regional centers were started, and we are affiliated with basically the general fund of the state of California. So, as taxpayers, we're paying monies into our state taxes of California, and monies that go into the general fund are taken a look at and allocated towards regional centers throughout the state of California. So as long as you're living in California and you have an active open case, you are utilizing taxpayers' funding in this area. And one of the things that we really take a look at is using those monies to purchase services and supports for our loved ones with developmental disabilities out in the community so that we can offset the cost of institutionalization. So our goal is to support individuals with developmental disabilities in the least restrictive environment. And in this case, for our young adults and our school-age children, that's typically in the family home. So as moms and dads and as aunts and uncles and foster families that are caring for our loved ones with a developmental disability, it's really about taking those tax monies that we're putting together and putting it back into the community. Um, One of the things that we always put out in any of our trainings and seminars is how to get a hold of the regional center. And our main office is in the San Leandro office, but we also have a Contra Costa County office in Concord. What you would need to do is take down the number of 510-618-6100 and call that regional center number, and you would ask for intake and assessment. They'll give you main options to do that. You'll go through an assessment process, and if your loved one has been found eligible for regional center, you will be assigned a case manager. Currently, I have 13 staff that are in the Tri-Valley area all the way out to the Tri-City area, which is the Fremont area. Our services range for the ages for my unit from 3 to 22 years of age, so that's the school age unit. We are actively working with our families at IEPs. We're actively working at what services could be provided out in the community and what services can be provided in the home to best support your loved one with a developmental disability. Um, we start to take a look at as our kids get older, around the age of 14 or 15, and we start talking to their high school programs about what the future looks like for that person. And with your IEP team, it's very important to start talking about transition and moving out from the school program out into the community services. So we really want to encourage you to always invite your regional center case manager to attend your IEPs. And currently, with the pandemic, we are doing this virtually. And it's a lot easier for us to attend those meetings now since we're not commuting. We're able to attend from working at home or in the office your IEPs. So please don't forget to call your case manager or email your case manager to attend those IEPs with you. Our website below is rceb.org, and our website has a very new kind of look to it and a very comprehensive look at what services we're providing, what current things we're working on at the regional center, and how we're coping with COVID. So I invite you to take a look at that. One of the areas that we really have built a relationship with is working with the Department of Rehabilitation. The Department of Rehabilitation is a organization, nonprofit. It's a federal program. So throughout all the states, there are Department of Rehabs. And the purpose of those rehabs, those facilities, are to work with families and clients and consumers and individuals out in the community who need additional support around the area of employment or independent living. One of the things that we're working with Department of Rehab is kind of that hand holding from the time that you leave your education program. If you have someone that you love who wants to go to work, we're doing referrals through the school systems and through the regional centers to Department of Rehabilitation. And this will help your loved one become more independent as they can add additional services to what the regional center funds. I've included the website for DOR, we call it DOR, below. And we also want to let you know that we are working on what's called TPPs, the Transition Partnership Programs. And this is where we're looking at how to utilize independent living centers, youth leadership forums, and specialized services in order to help support your loved one exiting school. And at your IEP, you really should have that written down as a service provider. Regional center is a service provider, your school is a service provider, and the Department of Rehab can also be a service provider. When your student who is turning 16, 17, 18, it's time to start thinking about all of those adult services that we all decided to go apply for, such as a driver's license. There are definitely a lot of our regional center clients are working towards getting their driver's license. We have individuals who have attended specialized driver's license training programs. Your case managers might have some of that information for you. But what's really important is getting together with your student who's about to turn 18 and applying for a California ID card. You're going to need this in order to start applying for different services, including, if not many, Department of Rehab, when they apply for jobs, um, also all of those different things. So we're going to have to start thinking about those ID cards for when they start using their ATMs and if they apply for credit. So the dmv.ca.gov is another wonderful opportunity for you to be able to help your student who's getting close to graduation or who's transitioning over to the transition program in your local school district to prepare for adulthood. Currently, with COVID, things have really changed around using bus systems, and the regional center, when we are taking a look at transitioning a lot of our young adults into day programs, the regional center typically funds the transportation around that if the person isn't able to get themselves to a day program or a work program. But I did include here our ADA paratransit and Clipper card information. I think it's great if families apply for this, and you can do it online. Um, and they go through an assessment process as well, where they're taking a look at what kind of fare reduction could be provided to your loved one in order to get a discount on Clipper cards, BART cards, and other types of transportation they can use. Um, when we start to take a look at the transitioning of moving away from the school system over into the adult day programs or over into work or over into leaving high school, we start to transfer those rights over to the student at the age of 18. So around the age of 16, your IEP team should be discussing the age of majority. The age of majority is when we start to take a look at legally defining the person as an adult when they're 18 years old. And at 18, that individual can sign off on their IEP. They can sign off on a lot of things that they didn't get to sign off on before. One of the areas that we also take a look at is registering to vote. As we've gone out and had a lot of increase in voter registration, we also had a lot of increase in putting together plans so that our young adults could start to register to vote. I've given you the website for that. That's www.usa.gov. This is also a time where all of our males have to register for selective service, regardless of their disability. There's no exemption. But what happens for most of our families that if there should be some sort of draft or something along those lines, our families would be able to write a letter or show any of those individuals the needs of the person that we're registering and how they may not qualify first for providing selective services in our country. There have been multiple opportunities for families out in the Valley through our transition fairs to talk to individuals about conservatorships and durable powers of attorney. I've given you some basic information here, but I think it's really important that if you Google conservatorship, durable power of attorney, and take a look at what the difference is, maybe Google it as conservatorship versus durable power of attorney. But one of the things that the Regional Center, if you are a client, we do help families weigh in regarding the conservatorship. If you apply for conservatorship through the courts, if the person is a Regional Center client, we do write a letter to the courts and we talk about the 7 areas of decision making for your loved one. One of the things that we have found is that a lot of families are doing these things online and not with an attorney. We've had several families take on this task on their own, and they were able to do it through a step-by-step kind of how-to videos and how-to websites to help families not have to afford an attorney. You do have to pay court fees if you do that, but you do not have to pay an attorney. You can act as your own attorney in that way. A durable power of attorney, that's very, very specific to certain duties. And usually for a lot of our regional center loved ones, it's for the medical, financial, and then possibly around going into contracts or financial decision making and educational decision making. You can go in and get it notarized, and a lot of times it can be held up in court. You can use it for SSI and IHSS when you're doing those applications or when you're discussing your loved one. You can use it for medical reasons. If you're calling your doctor on behalf of your regional center loved one, you can provide that durable power of attorney to them, and they will accept that and allow you to help make those decisions on their behalf. A conservatorship is more of a permanent, less fluid document. It is a permanent decision-making opportunity for parents or caregivers to restrict the decision-making of the conservatee. So that's something that you probably should really take a look at versus the durable power of attorney. A special needs trust is something that I always talk to parents about. And usually, when we're in a forum where parents are in front of me, they'll ask me questions. So I'm kind of going through this hoping that I can kind of touch on the areas that a lot of families ask me questions around this. But I always try to put it out there to families that if you had a loved one that wasn't able to make financial decisions for themselves, and wasn't able to provide for themselves in the way that maybe some of us would. Um, Monies can enter into a trust that is protected from public benefits. So, for example, if your loved one was left $1 million in a trust, and that trust went into the bank, but it didn't have any containers around it or any specialized um, disabled beneficiary language, that money would be held against the person who had it, your loved one. So immediately they would see a surplus of this income, and this income would kind of kick those your loved ones out of their public benefits, such as Social Security or their Medi-Cal, because at all times, in order to continue to be eligible for Social Security, you have to have less than $2,000 associated with the Social Security of your loved one. Um, so, what we always suggest is if grandma or grandpa or aunt and uncle or you have been saving since your loved one's been born, um, to go to college or to buy a car or to help with housing, whatever it is that you've saved money towards, and it comes time that the person's turned 18 and you're applying for Social Security or Medi-Cal, we always suggest that you turn those monies into a specialized trust that will secure and benefit and not hold those monies against your loved ones for those public benefits. If you Google special needs trust, the regional center doesn't provide you with names and addresses and lawyers that can do that. We kind of leave that to you. We also suggest that you network with other parents about who they might have used in the past. We find that families are really good, yelpers of who's best to work with out in the community. But we suggest that you take a look at a special needs trust, especially when it comes to property liquidation and endowments that might be coming from relatives, inheritances. There's also, it's not new, but it's really becoming more of a better possibility for a lot of our families and a lot of our clients is ABLE accounts. And these ABLE accounts can allow you also to have a higher amount of money in savings that can be protected as well against any sort of public benefits that might be held against it. So if you look up ABLE account online, you'll be able to see a lot of that information there. And in this presentation, I've given you, basically what the ABLE account says, which is it's a tax advantage savings account for individuals with disabilities and their families. And it was created as a result of the passage of the Stephen Beck Achieving a Better Life Experience Act of 2014, or better known as the ABLE Act. The beneficiary of the account or the account owner and income earned by the accounts will not be taxed. So that's one great area that we take a look at. Also, it will help protect public benefits. So I've given you some websites here. I believe that my presentation, my para presentation, is going to be provided to you online. And so this information will be also part of what will be given to you as part of our transition program today. And this gives you the direct websites and phone information. A lot of our families are concerned. You've been using the same pediatrician, hopefully for a long time. They really know your child. They really have an understanding of the unique needs of your child and your family. Many of our families use Kaiser, and you've had your Kaiser pediatrician since birth. or since the time they've turned 3, and now they're 18 and you're wondering, what do I do? And this is a big issue for a lot of our families. Um, I do want to say that if you have Medi-Cal at the age of 18, and let's say you're a Kaiser patient up until you're 18, because you're a historical Kaiser patient, your loved one can continue to use Kaiser through Medi-Cal. That's just an inside hint. I'm not sure with other providers, but we do know that it's pretty easy to move from Kaiser funding through private insurance to Medi-Cal. Um, Moving from a private insurance for a family to a Medi-Cal provider is difficult. There are different Medi-Cal providers out there too. There might be Alameda Alliance. There might be Beacon Health. So doing some research around what providers are being used for Medi-Cal in your county would be really helpful to you. And again, I think networking with other parents to find out what they find is the best provider if you're using just Medi-Cal only is a good idea. If you have private insurance and your loved one is able to stay on your private insurance until the age of 25, you also can have Medi-Cal. Sometimes people think I need either or, but that's not true. Medi-Cal can be seen as a supplemental insurance as well for many people. We always talk about like the funding ladder of how things are done when it comes to regional centers, your insurances. So just for an example, if someone had a child or a loved one that was in a wheelchair and the wheelchair was funded through Kaiser Insurance or through United Health, when that person turns 18, Kaiser may say, well, we have a co-insurance or a cost of a share of cost. And so mom and dad, the wheelchair, we're going to fund 4,000 of it, but the copay or the share of cost is 1,000 to you. One of the great benefits of having the Medi-Cal on top of the private insurance is that many times Medi-Cal will cover the copays or co-insurance for those durable medical equipments. So that's something to think about. It also could pick up some of the copays or co-insurance around medications or specific medical equipment that you need to use to help keep your loved ones safe. So these are things to think about, not to turn your back on Medi-Cal, because Medi-Cal can be very beneficial to your 18-year-old along with the private family insurance. Once private family insurance is no longer available to your loved one, hopefully by then, at the age of 25, you've been able to figure out who the Medi-Cal providers are in your county and what could be the most helpful to you. We at the Regional Center really like to participate in your IEPs. Um, it's a pleasure for us to sit down with teams and take a look at how we can brainstorm to best meet the needs educationally, but also on a personal level and home level with the teaching staff that are working with your loved one. Kind of taking a look at the big puzzle and the pie that we are trying to build. We don't want those gaps in services. So a lot of time Regional Center likes to come to meetings so that we can figure out how we could fill gaps, how we could help best advocate for your loved one and the student. But also it's time to hand the baton over to the Regional Center as your loved one gets older. After the age of 18, if you have an individual that is graduating from high school with a diploma, has met all the units and credits that are needed in order to graduate, if your loved one decides that they want to go to college, we can help that loved one start that process. We don't fund college at the Regional Center, but we can start talking to you a little bit about some of those specialized college programs that your young adult can participate in locally. We also take a look at, is the Department of Rehab participating, and has your loved one been applied and accepted at the Department of Rehab, how we can work with them on creating that next step into college life or into work life. Regional Center also has a variety of new work service programs. We have a wonderful employment coordinator. Her name is Rose. She also presents at all the transition fairs, and hopefully you'll be able to catch one of her presentations. She's a wonderful young lady that has a tremendous amount of knowledge and energy and information around going to work, doing internships, and preparing for work life outside of high school. So just a thought, food for thought. Rose is someone great to talk to. She doesn't really participate in IEPs, but she can be very helpful in terms of resource development. I've given you 3 areas of advocacy, question and answer information websites. Rights Law is a very large, comprehensive, internet-based website where individuals, husband and wife, the rights, put together a very comprehensive look at all sorts of different legislative information that families can use while they're trying to advocate through their IEP. They have templates for letters. They have a lot of information around regulations for each state. So I just encourage you to take a look at that if you have questions. DREDF is a local organization that does disability advocacy. And then of course we have disability rights. And so I would like to just point that out to you, that if you ever need support and help with communicating with the regional center or your IEP team or anything, those 3 areas can be very helpful for you to take a look at as parents. I talked a little bit about Rose and about what the regional center is really moving towards. We are really moving towards taking a look at active employment options out in the community, accessing employment and employment with support. Over time, we would like to see minimal support on the job. So we start talking about how we do supported employment with Department of Rehab and how we all start kind of working our way out of the support so that that person's more individual in their employment. But Regional Center also keeps that support in through job coaching and different service providers. So really great options out there. You know, prior to COVID, we had a lot more of our young adults working. During COVID, of course, a lot of our families and our clients chose to kind of go back home for a little bit and not be exposed to the community, which of course has been an individual option for people. But it's very exciting to see what the community is doing, especially the community of the Tri-Valley. They're extremely supportive of our young adults out in this community. And I really want to say that's because a lot of our transition programs, the 18 to 22-year-old programs, are working very, very hard with our community to gather supports and employment while they're in school. You know, I'm sure your loved one, if they're in the transition program, they might have worked at Gay 90s Pizza or Joanne's Fabrics or at the Senior Center. So these are just ideas that, you know, I know that our Pleasanton Unified School District and Livermore and Dublin have used. Castro Valley is doing the same. Out in Contra Costa County, I know that Danville and San Ramon in that catchment area are doing a lot of work. So it's really exciting. But the Regional Center wants to be a part of that advocacy around employment options. So please talk to your case manager about that. Again, Rose does a lot of presentations out in the community, and as a case management service person, you know, we do a lot of consultation with her and get a lot of information from her as well. One of the things that we kind of take a look at when someone is turning 18 or they've decided to stay in school until they're 22 is what to do after. And there are a lot of options. Now, of course, during COVID, a lot of our individuals have kind of gone back home, like I referenced, but before COVID, we really saw an increase and boost of people going out and working out in the community. We have a lot of vocational programs. We have a lot of day programs that incorporate vocation into their day program. And so they're going out and doing job seeking. They're learning job seeking skills as part of their day program. We are doing internships with different companies and organizations. And we're really trying to find work for those who want to work. And so it's very exciting. We always encourage that you start talking to your case manager when the person turns 18 in your life, and start talking a lot about what are the interests of that loved one. When we do home visits or phone visits right now during COVID, we really want to talk to your loved one. We want to hear what their interests are. We have some wonderful programs that we would like to do referrals for, and some of those programs have wait lists. So the sooner we do them, the better. We also encourage our families to do tours. And right now, I know a lot of the day programs and the work programs and the vocational programs are doing virtual tours. So they're not stopping their wait lists. They're not stopping their programs. They're providing alternative programs right now. And we really encourage you to go take a look at those programs, even if they're virtually and online. There's a lot of applications to fill out by the time someone turns 18. You're looking at California ID cards, you're looking at Department of Rehab referral application. You might be looking at college education and applications for that. Taking a look at all the disabled student services that are out there. There's a lot of things to do. And we acknowledge that, and we understand that this is a new transition for our families, our parents, and the students that are leaving their programs. Take Regional Center with you. Hold us, we'll hold you by the hand. We will walk you through it as best we can. The Regional Center can't fill out applications a lot of times for anybody that's a minor. But if we have adults that do not have a loved one to help them through application process, a lot of times your adult case manager can help with that. I think most of the individuals I'm talking to today are parents that still have their child living at home with them. And so it's mom and dad's responsibility to fill out that application, but we can also help you with whatever you need in terms of getting information and doing those referrals. It is a very interesting time of life. I liken it to the fact that my son also went off to college, and what did that feel like for me? It was a really scary time. It was sad, but it was joyous at the same time. And I kind of see that as the same thing. You know, you've all had your loved ones, your children in a school system that has been the main caretaker of your child during the day, providing the education. And whether you've had disputes or a great relationship with your school district, the fact that you're transitioning away from this contained environment to the next environment is kind of scary sometimes. Um, as a regional center, we want to be a part of that with you. We want to help you. We want to provide support. We want to provide referrals, resources, whatever you need. We want to be a part of it. So it's really important to stay in touch with your case manager. I know that we're all very busy. Case managers are busy. Our caseloads are high, but that's no excuse for not keeping in contact with our families. So what I always tell people when I meet with them out in the community is if you're concerned about your case manager, you can go to our website and take a look at who your case manager supervisor is and contact that supervisor at any time. Questions that you might have, concerns, we're always open to hearing from you. We do right now during COVID, probably email more than we do phone calls because it's faster and it's an easier way for us to get a hold of families. During COVID, I would also like to say that we're trying to reach out to all of our families and find out what you need from us. We're trying to find out if you need PPEs, masks, gloves, hand sanitizers, visors to go over your face. We're trying to find ways to meet those needs for families. We're trying to give out as much information as we can for those COVID vaccines. And so please look for email or phone calls from your case manager in regards to that. Um, One of the other areas which I experienced myself is having your child move out of your house. Regional Center about every April, May does a living options tour, and I think we're going to do it virtually again this year. We did it last year, and it was pretty fun. I think families got a lot out of it. Um, what we do is we try to let families kind of see some of the variety that's out there of ways that your loved one can move out of the house and gain as much independence out in the community, either living alone or with friends or in a group home setting. Regional centers really moved away from that whole congregated setting. We don't do large housing programs. We don't look at institutionalization. We look at the least restrictive environment, the most quote unquote normalized environment for your loved one to possibly live in the future. So a lot of our group homes, although some of them may have 6 capacity, we're moving more into the 4 capacity or a 3-person capacity. We're taking a look at how much supports are needed in those homes. In group homes, there's 24-hour staffing typically. Some of our homes that the individuals don't require as much support may not have 24-hour staffing. We are doing a lot of resource development around supported living, where we do an assessment and take a look at how much support individuals might need in a setting. If 2 individuals wanted to become roommates and they could share those supports, maybe they needed some overnight staffing or didn't need overnight staffing, that would be all developed within their plans for supported living through a vendor. We take a look at independent living. We have individuals out in the community living independently with their peers or alone, and they're doing very well. We really try to take a look at how we can provide those supports along with family members to make sure that our loved ones are safe and engaged in their community and are busy and happy and leading, very comfortable lives. So I encourage you to take a look at the website for announcements around the living options tours. Many case managers also send out, mass emailing around those tours and the presentations around that. I know it's scary, and it may be something that you're not thinking about right now. I just always try to put this out there as a possibility. Um, it's exciting, but we may not be there yet, so that's okay. But there are opportunities out there for everybody. This is kind of a shorter presentation for me because usually I interact with families as we go along. I will be available after this presentation to take questions. So this presentation isn't as long as it normally is, and this will give us more opportunity to spend time together and answer questions. So thank you very much. I hope you're all well and safe, and take care.